Hey everybody, Captain Jim Palmer, the Dream Business Coach, coming to you from the beautiful marina we've called home for the last 6 months, the summer of 2018. And I want to talk to you today about something that I call the Walter Principle. Now, this definitely delves into a personal aspect of my life and perhaps your life, but it also has very real consequences / benefits for you as an entrepreneur. So I'm going to share. So I first learned about the Walter Principle when I was really struggling in my business. I was about 6 or 7 years in. I mean, doing okay, but nowhere near what I wanted to be. And then one day, a friend of mine at church asked me if I would go help him install an air conditioner in an apartment for this 93-year-old man who was a shut-in. He a former member, well, current member of the church, but he was unable to leave his very tiny apartment. I said, okay, I'll go help you. And so I went and did that, and I met this gentleman named Walter. And he was all about 4'9" or 5 foot nothing, kind of hunched over, and had never met me. And anyway, we put a window air conditioner in his apartment because it was like the middle of summer. And then Walter, as we were leaving, handed me a little paper napkin, like a dinner napkin, and inside was a tiny box, like a sampler-sized box of Milk Duds. And I was like, well, thank you, Walter. And I opened it up, and there was like 3 Milk Duds. And one of my instant go-to reactions is always humor. I said, Walter, there's only 3 in this box. And he looked at me and goes, I can give you a lot more. He had this high-pitched voice. And I said, I'm just kidding you, Walter. Thank you very much. And little did I know, a short time after that, Stephanie, my wife Stephanie, who was a deacon at our church, became the deacon for Walter. And she said, one Sunday afternoon, Jim, I want to go visit Walter. I'd like you to go with me. And I'll own up to this. I think my initial reaction was less than stellar, because I think I was watching football. And in my head, I said, well, I'm watching a football game, and did you ever say something and you knew it was instantly wrong? Well, I shared that, but I knew I'd go anyway. I wound up going to see Walter again, and we just struck up such a bond. And we just learned so much about his life and how much he struggled his entire life. He was really separated from family. I think he had a couple brothers that were still alive, or younger brothers or cousins or something, but he was basically alone. And through a lot of prodding of Stephanie's, because she's got such a huge heart, we started going more and more to visit Walter. We would take him out to Wendy's on a Saturday night. We went out and we'd drive over to Walter's house and joke that we adopted Walter. And so we'd take him to Wendy's, and he'd order a junior cheeseburger. I swear, whatever I ordered, I had eaten, disposed of, and I was ready to go to the car, and he's just barely eaten his first French fry. So I got a little lesson in patience there, but Walter had a great time. In fact, one time he said, boy, we're having a real party now. And I mean, it was just the highlight of his week, probably his month. And Walter really became the first person, or the first example, where I really understood the power of serving others and being in service and not simply writing checks. I mean, I think we're definitely supposed to help out those less fortunate, and sometimes writing checks is easier than spending time. But I know also, very taught from a very good friend of mine, that you don't just give your money, you also give your time. And it seems like no matter when we wanted to go to Walter, or that's when I got involved in Good Works and a number of different charities. Stephanie and I were mentors to this women's group called Bridge of Hope for single moms who were at risk. And so we would mentor them and spend time with them and things like that. But every time it would come up as for our turn to serve, I found myself, I can't tell if the sun's in my face or behind me, so I'll flip around and show you the woods instead of the marina. But every time it seemed like I had a lot going on. I was busy. I was maybe sometimes bemoaning my business. How come I'm not growing faster? How come my checkbook looks so pathetic? And all these different things. And then I would go and be of service to others, and I'd feel like $1 million coming home. I'm sure my time, and in some cases our time, was a blessing to them, but it was also a major blessing to me. And it really gave me something that I figured one of the most important hashtags in my life is #perspective. So no matter what I had going on, no matter how much I was bemoaning my success or lack thereof. I always got perspective when I'd be in service to others. And so when I was explaining this whole thing about how Stephanie and I, this is a very important part of our lives, and I called it the Walter Principle. And so here, by the way, one day I was writing my book Decide. I clearly remember I was on the phone with Ann, my editor, and we went to see Walter. We were gonna see if we could take him to lunch. And there was no answer, and he doesn't go anywhere. And his little apartment was next door to this small restaurant who knew him well, and they used to give him food at the end of the day. And we went and said, well, we saw an ambulance come take Walter away. Then we're like, oh my God, we couldn't find him. We went to a couple hospitals. We started calling around to different people at our church, and nobody knew where he was. We eventually found him in a rehab, and we started going several times a week to visit him. And here's a picture of Stephanie walking down the hall with Walter now in his walker, and he's going, look how fast we can go. So Walter actually died a couple weeks after that. And I remember when I got the call, well, I was certainly sad that Walter died. I felt a real sense of gratitude that for the last 2 years of Walter's life, he didn't die alone. And Stephanie and I, in a pretty real way, became part of his family. And the reason I'm sharing this story to entrepreneurs, for the most part, is that serving others really gives you perspective. Serving others is the other side of life. This is both something that's going to help you in your own personal life, but it's also, no one will ever convince me that to the amount that I have learned to be in service to others, to the amount that we were also able to give a lot more in terms of donations and things like that, it was really an important part of my progress as a person and as an entrepreneur. I'll take a little quick walk here, get out of the sun. And so I think while this is obviously a personal issue, it's a side of our lives that we don't often talk about. You know, you don't talk about how much you give, and you don't talk about this, that, and the other thing. But what I've learned is that you can't separate the two. You can't separate who you are as a person, who you are as an entrepreneur. So for the entrepreneurs and small business owners out there, if you're struggling, if you're in a bad way right now, if things aren't going your way, look, we could talk about, and I could give you different things to do that might help you grow your business from a coaching perspective. But here's the first thing I would tell you: go be in service to somebody else. Go serve food in a food kitchen. Go, just do something. Find a local charity, a good cause, and go be in service to somebody else. By the way, there are lots of elderly people around that would simply like to tell you their stories. I think in 2 years, I heard the same 5 stories of Walter's life at least 12, 15, 18 times. And we'd no sooner sit in Walter's apartment, he'd say, did I ever tell you about? And then we'd listen to all the stories as if they were for the first time. But go do that, and you're gonna get #perspective. And I think that's what I want to share with you. So this is, in reality, this is a business building tip, but it's also gonna have a lot of benefit for you in your personal life. And of course, it all starts with, I think, the first sentence of that wonderful book, Purpose Driven Life. It's not about you. So if you're in a tough situation, if you're looking to grow, maybe look inwardly a little bit and go be of service to someone else. It's gonna give you perspective, but it's also gonna change your life. And I think whether you believe in God, Spirit, the universe, whatever higher power you believe in, I believe you will be rewarded very handsomely for serving others selflessly. So that's my video for today. I wanted to share that message with you. It really seemed to resonate with the folks at Dream Business Academy. I call it the Walter Principle. And that's it. All right, I am Jim Palmer, the Dream Business Coach. Hope you have an awesome day. #perspective. Take good care.